22.5 at the moment, and having a big conversation because things has taken quite a turn within South Africa. Some people are happy about it, other people are concerned about this. Some are for it, others are against it. But what do you need to know? How does this really work? What does it mean? The two-part retirement system, and how, of course, how do you go ahead and you benefit from it as well? Joining me this afternoon is independent financial advisor Yashay, who joins us live in studio. We are also live on Facebook, so if you do end up missing anything, you are able to head on over to Facebook and find all of the information and this entire interview as well. Now, South Africa's largest retirement fund administrator says the demand for pension fund withdrawals in the first week of the new two-part retirement system has been much bigger than expected. But how does this system really work, and how do you make it work for yourself? Firstly, Yashay, good afternoon to you. Thank you for taking the time and joining me.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So let's get straight into this conversation because I think it's a valuable one, and I mean there's a bit of confusion around it as well as to how it works. What does it mean, and all of these questions. So let's start at the very beginning, going in with the two-part retirement system. What is the purpose of it?
Okay, so the main purpose, and a lot of people might be thinking why the government has decided to implement the system. Firstly, it stems from a very poor savings culture that most South Africans have. I believe last year the savings rate for South Africans was about 0.5%, and then the year before that, which is 2022, sat at 0.2%. On top of that, only about 6% of South Africans can comfortably afford to retire, which means that they can comfortably afford to retire with the lifestyle they're currently living.
Yeah.
So there's been quite a lack of preserving your retirement funds, because under the old rules, what would happen is, while you were employed, you did not have immediate access to your funds if you belonged to a pension or provident fund. So what many fund members used to do is they used to deliberately resign so that they could have access to those funds. Yeah,
okay.
in times of financial hardship. So the system has changed, whereby you are allowed to access a portion of those funds while still remaining invested for your long-term retirement, essentially. So essentially the purpose is, hopefully this sort of system shifts the savings culture or the mindset of South Africans.
Yeah. And I mean, as a financial advisor and given your experience so far, do you think in the long run that this system would actually work, and that whatever the government is trying to achieve, that they'll end up achieving it with this two-part system?
Okay, that's quite a controversial one. In my opinion, I believe that there are more cons than there are pros. The pros being, obviously, you have access to those funds in the event of tough financial times. However, the various cons are that it's going to cause people, it's going to tempt people, should I say?
Yeah.
It's going to tempt them to withdraw money from the. Yeah, it's going to tempt them to withdraw money from that savings pot, which depletes your retirement capital. And then I attended a webinar on Monday by Glacier, which is Sanlam's asset manager.
Yeah.
They mentioned that for every 1,000 Rand that you withdraw from the savings pot, you roughly sacrificing about 5,000 Rand in future compounded growth.
Wow.
And I'm sure, as you know, 5,000 Rand can, it goes a long way in helping you save for the exorbitant healthcare costs, groceries, and other living expenses. What's also going to happen is it's going to cause people, if they're feeling stressed or anxious or going through financial pressure, if they're going through a lot of anxiety continuously year on year, it's going to cause them to dip into the savings pot.
Yeah.
So ultimately, this is my personal opinion. It's not a fact. So ultimately, I believe that it's going to create quite unhealthy savings habits.
Okay. So with this two-part system that got introduced come the beginning of September, how does it work? How do you access? Where do you go? How does this whole process then start?
Okay, no problem. So even it's a little bit confusing. Even though it's called the two-part system, ironically, there's actually three components.
Okay.
So the first component is your vested pot. The second component is the savings pot.
Okay.
And then the third component is the retirement pot. So when we talk about the vested pot or the vested component, this is your contributions and your growth that is accumulated in your retirement fund up until the 31st of August 2024.
Okay.
So when we talk about vested, we're talking about the rights that cannot be taken away from you.
Okay.
So there can be no further contributions that can be made to the vested pot. That vested pot is still governed by the previous retirement rules. Then we talk about the savings pot. So initially, what's going to happen is, or what has happened automatically is, 10% of the fund value in the vested pot, subject to a maximum of 30,000 rand, will automatically get transferred to the savings pot. It's done through a process called seeding. So initially, the seeding capital will be from the vested pot. So for the sake of an example, if there's 100,000 rand as the fund value in your vested pot, 10% of that, which is 10,000. So 10,000 rand gets transferred over to the savings pot.
Okay.
If there's 300,000 rand, then 30,000 gets transferred over to the savings pot. And if there's 500,000 rand, for example, then only 30,000 rand will be transferred to the savings pot, because that's a maximum that's allowed to be transferred.
Okay.
And then there's the retirement component. There's the retirement component, whereby that money goes towards your retirement. So that money is preserved until your targeted retirement age. You cannot access that money immediately.
So which pot do you access if you want to then go for the, if you want to then get money from the two-pot retirement systems? Then which is, so then you access the first two and you're not allowed to touch the retirement pot that you're speaking of?
Yeah, that's correct. You're not allowed to touch the retirement component. The component that you're allowed to withdraw funds from is the savings pot. The savings pot was created so that you have immediate access to that money.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it only the savings?
Yes, it's only the savings pot.
Okay, interesting. So is there a limitation as to how much of that savings pot you can withdraw, or can you withdraw any amount you feel like?
Yeah, so that's correct. So the savings pot grows. So the savings pot is uncapped basically.
Okay.
However, when it comes to the minimum amount you can withdraw, the minimum amount you can withdraw from the savings pot is 2,000 rand.
Okay.
Which means that the minimum amount that must be sitting in your savings pot in order to make a successful withdrawal must be 2,000 rand. But you are allowed to withdraw an unlimited amount of funds.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever's available in that savings pot.
Is there a max? No.
No, there's no maximum.
Okay, great. Sure. That's it. That's next level, eh?
Yeah, and then if I have time, can I quickly touch on
Go
how
for
it's
it.
going to work after the 1st of September?
Yeah.
So after the 1st of September, I spoke about the savings pot and the retirement pot. So if you make monthly contributions to your retirement fund, it's going to be split in two ways. So a third of the monthly contribution goes towards the savings pot on top of the seeding capital. And then the remaining 2/3 goes towards the retirement component, which is invested for the long term. So for the sake of an example, if you're contributing 3,000 rand per month to a retirement fund, 1,000 rand will go into the savings pot, and then 2,000 rand goes into the retirement component, the retirement pot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say you've got about 50,000 in the savings pot, right? And this is the pot now that you're able to withdraw from, right?
Yeah.
And I decide, you know what? This month I only need like 2K because it's the minimum amount. So you withdraw 2K. Then next month I want to withdraw more money.
Hold on. There's a big disclaimer there.
Okay.
So legislation only allows you to make one withdrawal per tax year or per tax cycle.
Wow. I find it quite frustrating how a lot of people is also saying that maybe there is a lack of funds in the government, and that's why they've put the system in place. It's not that people are struggling to save, because people know what they're planning for with the retirement fund. A lot of people are thinking, okay, cool, I'm working for so long, I want to buy a house. I want to, like, people are putting things in place, and now the government's saying, no, I'm showing you how to save. And on their end, obviously, it's growing, and they can utilize the funds. Like you said, it's 3 pots, not 2.
Yeah.
Actually, so they get to use the ultimate retirement fund while you trying to live pay by pay.
Yeah.
Which is frustrating.
No, it is. It is.
Sure. Okay. I think also, if I'm not mistaken, one of the ministers also mentioned, ministers mentioned about the retirement pot and system coming into play, is that, you know, the 2 pot is also kind of being given the leeway and being implemented so that people can withdraw 30,000 and start that small business, or withdraw the money and actually have capital to begin the business, so they have a secondary income, because it's maybe the startup capital that you need that you don't have now, but perhaps it's in that investment space, in the savings pot. And so that is part of why the government has also gone ahead and implemented this. And I think in that regard, this makes sense for me. In that regard, I understand it's brilliant, because I don't have 20K just lying around for me to invest to start my secondary or my third line of income. So that makes sense. But all in all, just as we do come to a close, as an independent financial advisor, you've understood what this whole system means. You see what this looks like. People are withdrawing money, and I know there was an influx as soon as this thing went live. There was an influx of people requesting and submitting their things to the various organizations. What is your advice in terms of people using their money wisely? That let's say you withdraw the 20K or the 40K, right? What is your advice to ensure that this is not just money being withdrawn from the pot, and then in 2 months' time you don't have any of that left?
Okay. I'm live on here, so advice is a bit of a dangerous word.
Okay.
Just a quick disclaimer I forgot to mention. Anything that I do mention in today's session does not, unfortunately, constitute as advice. If someone would like advice, they're more than welcome to speak to me personally.
Okay.
So I'm just sharing factual information. But what I do want to make people aware of are the tax implications when you do withdraw, which I didn't have time to touch on. So because you're withdrawing from your savings pot, SARS sees it as sort of generating an income. So you're taxed according to your marginal tax rate. So this could be anywhere from 18 to 45%, depends on what marginal tax bracket you lie in.
Sure.
So that's also something to keep in mind. Another thing that's also important to keep in mind is if you do not have your taxes in order, or if you do have any outstanding debt with SARS, they are allowed to first dip into that savings pot and then collect that money before you can make your
There's so much red tape.
There is so much red tape.
There's so much red tape.
Yeah, SARS they've got it all figured out.
Wow. And if it comes to, I don't know if this makes sense or if it's even liable in this situation, but can you use it as a form of credit? Could you use your retirement fund as a form of credit? Could you go to the bank and be like, look, but I have this in the savings that I cannot touch. Can I get a house on the full amount as like your form of credit?
So I believe what you're asking is, can you use your retirement fund as a form of security?
Yes, kind of.
Yeah. So currently no, because retirement funds actually they work in two ways. Firstly, they bypass your estate, so they don't attract any estate duty, and secondly, they are protected from creditors.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So you cannot use it as credit.
And if people need to get hold of you, if they need to contact you for any financial advice or assistance, how do they do that?
Yeah, sure. So you can WhatsApp me or call me on 083 452 0290. That's 083 452 0290. Or you're more than welcome to send me an email. It's yashay@dynastyfas.co.za. So I'll spell that out for you. It's YASHAY@dynasty.fas.co.za.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And of course, you can go onto Facebook and you can catch the full live interview on our Facebook page at Kaapse Council, Cape Pulpit, 7 to 9 a.m. Okay, 5 minutes before we're eating 6 o'clock. Look at me. 5 minutes before eating 5 o'clock for your Good News Bulletin. Your answers are coming in on the WhatsApp number 081 729 1657. The riddle for today, in case you missed it, is...
Death could not claim me on the third day.